All right, everybody. I'm gonna do really quickly because I changed my setup around in my house. So I'm trying to make sure all the levels and everything are good and everything is as it should be. And it looks like we figured it out. Had some technical difficulties, so we're a little late this evening, but I think we have a really, really good show in tune for you guys. And of course, you can't have a good show here at Load the Box without the marvelous and the wonderful Jack H. Day. Jack, how has your week been, and how excited are you about this Zadarius Smith news?
I'm pumped. It's been a crazy week, which is really weird to say in a good way for Minnesota sports. We have the Timberwolves pushing for a 6 seed. The Wild go out and trade for Fleury, trying to contend. You can say what you want about him possibly being past his prime, obviously, but they're in the hunt for the playoffs, obviously, trying to make a push. Twins go out and get Carlos Correa, and then the Zadarius news broke yesterday, and it's like, I don't know where this has been the rest of my life, but I hope this is like kind of the new norm here in Minnesota where these teams are actually going for it. And I think I can kind of touch on the Zadarius Smith news a little bit. I do think this is a step in the right direction. I still think there's a long ways to go. There's an NFL draft that they're going to have to hit on several picks. There's several holes on this team. They still need a lot of depth. But right now, this team is heading in the right direction in a conference that, quite frankly, just has lost a lot of talent in the last 2-3 weeks, which that's a whole nother show that we can do if we want to talk about all the craziness going on around the NFL in general right now. But I still think the NFC North itself runs to the Green Bay Packers. We've seen it over the last several seasons with Aaron Rodgers, but I certainly think the Zadarius Smith signing, if him and Danielle Hunter are both healthy, I think it closes that gap a little bit, and it makes me a little bit more excited going into the 2022 season about not only the offensive side of the ball, but now it's pulling me into the defensive side of the ball, and I didn't think I was going to be able to say that prior to the draft.
Yeah, it definitely, and I talk multiple times, almost every week almost, about the importance of pass rush and how, you can't have really good defensive backs unless you have a good pass rush as well. Whereas I do think you can have a really good pass rush without great defensive backs, and I think the Vikings are leaning more in that direction. That being said, I do think me and you are in agreement. I think we can spoil what the number 12 overall pick will be if we don't trade out of it in tonight's mock draft. We're probably going defensive back for the Minnesota Vikings because I think you just have to, especially, I mean, you look at the roster, and if we're buying into Kwesi's vision of the team and Kevin O'Connell's vision of the team, they think this team right now can compete. They are not, pulling back. They're not tanking. They're not trying to, get the best quarterback in next year's class. There's none of that. It is, hey, we have Cousins. We have Jefferson, we have Thielen. Let's sign some offensive linemen. They've kind of been feeling the waters on J.C. Treader. I haven't seen any news about him break for any team, which is a good sign for the Vikings because hopefully, they take him out to, I think it's Manny's is the steakhouse that everyone always jokes about. Hopefully they take J.C. Treader up, they let him eat his body weight in steak and they get him nice and liquored up, and then they make him sign a binding legal document that makes him play for the Vikings next season, which I think is the strategy. But like you said, Zadarius Smith, that signing it immediately you're going to see that impact on the field. The question is now, can they both stay healthy, they being Hunter and Zadarius Smith? If just one of them stays healthy, I still think the defense is better. If both of them get injured, chalk the season up as a dud because then, we're going to need some guys to step up in ways that I don't think the Vikings necessarily have on the roster right now. But we will see. A lot of interesting stuff. If you want to expand on the Zadarius Smith, news for a little bit, feel free to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and I think what he brings to the table something the Vikings didn't really have on the edge. They didn't have someone that has that true 3-4 experience. And if you listen to any of his press conference last night, he was kind of talking about how he was utilized in Green Bay and the versatility that he brings to the defense. Like it's similar, except there's even more versatility, obviously. Like you picture Anthony Barr lining up in the A-gap. Zadarius Smith is more than capable of doing that, but I think he's more than capable of sliding all along the defensive line and finding the gaps to shoot. I was reading something earlier today about that, actually, and just having players in Donatel's defense that have that versatility is going to be huge. I wrote an article, and I'm sure I'll talk about this throughout the day when we're doing the mock draft as well. But I wrote an article about the Vikings trading back in the first round and landing an extremely versatile player in the secondary. And we'll probably talk about that when we get into the mock draft. But just having pieces that you can move around. I mean, you saw it with the Mike Zimmer scheme, how impactful a guy like Harrison Smith was. I mean, he could have quarterbacks thinking up until right before the snap happens because he's in the box and he drops back super fast. Having versatility is going to be key on this defense, especially with the lack of depth that they currently have. So bringing in players like a Zadarius Smith, I mean, Zadarius Smith is a proven superstar. Having him across the defensive line from Danielle Hunter, if those two are healthy, I think it's safe to expect that they have a full healthy season. We could expect 30-plus sacks out of the two of them combined. And that is huge because the Vikings did not have that without Danielle Hunter on the field last year. And now they have two of them. They still have a great inside backer in Eric Kendricks as well. Obviously, you get back to the secondary and things get a little bit more questionable. But I'm super excited about the signing. I think it shows that the Vikings are actually putting their money where their mouth is. They are buying into this and they're going after. I mean, Zadarius Smith is a huge signing for the Vikings. I think it's going to be fun seeing him not do it in a Green Bay Packers jersey where he sacks Kirk Cousins and rubs the Danielle Hunter leg kick in the Vikings fan or in front of the Vikings fans. That rubbed me the wrong way when it happened, but now it's gonna be fun seeing them flexing and doing that stuff together. But like you said, I agree 100%. I think it's going to make the play in the secondary a little bit easier as well. I'm not saying they should probably go out there with Harrison Hand and Chris Boyd as starters, but if that is the case and they have rookies out there, some young talent out there, it's going to make their jobs a little bit easier too, because you have to think, in theory, healthy Danielle Hunter, healthy Zadarius Smith, they're going to be getting the quarterback faster. I mean, why is he escaping me? Armon Watts was another one who was kind of getting pressure from the interior. We know Dalvin Tomlinson has that in his game too. So I'm excited to see the state of this front seven and how much that helps out on the back end and what talent they have in the back end come just over a month now as the NFL draft. So come early May.
Yeah, absolutely. And while you were talking about that, I went ahead and I realized that the ticker on the bottom of the screen was actually still had last week's breaking news. So I went ahead and updated it. Zadarius Smith is now a Viking. Unofficial load the box canon or whatever in the load the box animated universe or whatever it is, cinematic universe. But yeah, I think that if you're ready, I don't know how much more there is to get into in terms of Vikings news. Zadarius Smith, obviously, he's the big name. He's the one that everybody's excited about. But the title of this show is our first mock draft of the year. It's coming out pretty late compared to past years where I feel like we usually start at the end of February. And we wanted to wait because we did not know what this team was going to do. And now I do think that there's a pretty clear-cut direction that this team's going to go, so we can try. And I know last year you said you wanted Kellen Mond 100%. You wanted him. He was going to be a developmental guy. And the Vikings drafted Kellen Mond to be their developmental guy. So if you are ready to do that, then I am as well. Unless you have anything else, we can get into it.
No, yeah, let's jump into it.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us set up here. I have to share so Jack can see the screen. I'm going to have to share that. Now, unfortunately, when we do go live, you are going to miss mine and Jack's beautiful, beautiful face, which I know is just terrible. But actually, I think... Yeah, there it is. I actually think I can make you see mine and Jack's beautiful face. No, I'm not going to be able to do that. Okay, we'll just put it there. And I know you're seeing Into the Void right now because it has my Streamlabs stuff up. But let's go up here. Let's get into the mock draft. Oh man, I'm trying to think of exactly how to stout here, and there's really I besides just hitting stout draft. Jack, is there anyone particular that you want to see drop to 12? Are you a big Derek Stingley guy, or are you more Sauce Gardner? Where are you at with the 12th overall?
I'm definitely more of a Sauce Gardner guy. I do think there's a couple players that I've seen, oddly enough, start falling. I don't think it's going to happen. Thibodeau, the pass rusher from Oregon, Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame, and then Sauce Gardner is the other one who I think is kind of, there's a possibility that he slides down in that range, but I don't think he drops out of the top 10. I don't think either three of those players should drop out of the top 10, but I think given the majority of the mocks that I've done, I don't think either of the three are going to be there, and I also think there's a very good chance that Stingley's off the board too. And if all four of them are gone, I think that I don't know where your head is at because we haven't talked quite as much. I know I was blowing up your phone a little bit talking about some of the, like I said, I don't like admitting the amount of numbers of mock drafts I did, but in the last 24 hours, I'll just say it's been slightly aggressive on the mock drafts. And I think more often than not, I'm starting to realize I think a trade back is the best option because, like I said earlier, the Vikings still have a ton of holes to fill on their roster right now, and the best way to fill those is trading back and getting additional picks on day 2.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. So I'm a big Sauce Gardner guy, so much so that I think I've threatened violence on my television if he's there at 12 and the Vikings don't pull the trigger on him. By the way, just because I need to get this out there, I'm not going to have access to the chat, unfortunately, while we do this mock draft. It's just the way things lie. It sucks, but I just kind of realized that as we started getting into it. But yeah, if you're ready, I'm a big Sauce Gardner guy. It would be difficult for me to pull the trigger on trading down if he's there at 12, but I don't think he's going to be. and I definitely don't think he's going to be in real life. So I would then be open to it. Can we both agree really quickly we are not taking Trent McDuffie with the number 12 overall pick because he does not have the arm length to be taken that high?
Yeah, I agree. I still like Trent McDuffie. I think I said this last week as well. He's still a player that I'm fond of. The arm length worries me a little bit, but I still love the physicality that he plays with. I think there's a chance that he beats out that list of corners that I think it was under the 30-inch threshold arm length. I think there's a chance that he's one of the better ones in that list, but it's still certainly a little bit scary. And I think if the Vikings were willing to take a player like that at 12, I think they can trade back and acquire someone that might even have more upside. So I think personally, and I think he's also fallen on the Draft Network's board as well. I think he's down in the 20s now or early 20s, somewhere in there. So yeah, I don't think I would take him at 12. I think if the players that we just talked about are all gone, I think it's going to look more and more likely that from my end of things, I'm going to want to trade back.
Yeah, I think we might be in agreement there. But all this talk, we don't even know what's going to happen. I am confident that Aiden Hutchinson is going to the Detroit Lions. But let's go ahead and start the draft, and we'll see what happens. So I do have it set to slow, just to whatever. But so all right. Well, I was wrong about my first thing. Aiden Hutchinson is already falling. My God, he's falling out of the top 5 almost. But Derek Stingley Jr. goes off the boat. I know, that's the guy that obviously a lot of Vikings fans do like a lot. He's just not really in our wheelhouse. And Jack, it is looking before I even look at these offers. Oh, I hate the Commandos with every.
So the thing is with this too, you see Malik Willis sitting there at 9. I think Malik Willis is starting to slide up people's boards, especially teams like Detroit, Carolina, Seattle, and Atlanta now. Those are 4 teams that could all take a quarterback. I think there's a good chance that he's taken, which would push one of these players down further.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
that is not what happened, obviously. So yeah, if this was the given situation, if I absolutely had to pick somebody, I'd probably go with Booth. He's enticing. I don't love him, but I would understand it. But at the end of the day, I think this is a situation where you slide down into the late teens, early 20s, keep your first round pick down there, and hopefully acquire at least one day two pick, possibly even 2.
Yeah, so I think the issue is, and you see, this is one thing that I need to write a strongly worded letter to the Draft Network about. I wish that they would let you reopen the trades. Like, I wish you could just how they have a
We
hide
can,
button. But
yeah, we can play I mean, it's a mock draft. That's what we're doing anyways. We're making stuff up as we go. But the Steelers were a trade candidate. I think there's teams that you can kind
yeah.
of
Well, I think with Malik
get.
Willis sitting there, I definitely
Yes,
think
that's what I'm.
Pittsburgh
Yes, with
is the team to go
Pittsburgh, New
to.
Orleans is another one, I think. And then I don't know how far into the 20s you'd want to go, but I think Pittsburgh's a good one, and we could see what they'd be willing to give up in this. I
Yeah,
think sometimes.
I think I'm gonna agree with you here. I think Pittsburgh is probably the team to go with. But for no, let's go with Pittsburgh. Are you good with going with? Let's go with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So we're gonna give them the 12th overall pick. We obviously want the 20. The question is, what's it gonna take to get up to 12? Trying to be a little realistic, because I would love to just be like, give us 1, 2, 3, but I don't know if that's necessarily the most realistic thing. Do you think a 1 and a 2 and then maybe a 4 would maybe get it done?
Yeah, I mean, a 4 is the Vikings and their fan base need to realize too, they don't have a 4th round pick. So I think acquiring something like that, you could throw in a 5.
Yeah, that's
So
kind of
maybe
what
you
I'm
flip
thinking.
flops the 5 and 4, make it a little bit more realistic. But I think that's fairly realistic, especially if Pittsburgh is trying to jump 8 spots to get their quarterback of the future. I definitely think that would be an enticing offer for them. And
I think I agree with you, and I don't get rejected a lot on here. And it's mainly because I usually just backload my picks with tons of future ones. But so they traded up to get Andrew Booth, and we're gonna have a chance to take Malik Willis at 20, I think.
For the sake of being realistic, I think we should
My
pass
God.
because I don't think that's extremely realistic. I mean,
if we're being
I think,
honest, I don't think he's gonna get past 8. I think that the Falcons
and
would
definitely
take
not
him.
9
No,
with Seattle. I
definitely,
think
yeah.
Seattle likes him as well. But this is where things get interesting. This is where you have to figure out what you want to do if you're the Minnesota Vikings. Do you want to try to start the overload on defense and get the youth movement started? Do you want to try to protect Kirk Cousins a bit more? Because quite frankly, I don't think center or right guard are good enough for what the team is going to want to do. It's going to be the same frustrating story that we've seen over and over again, unless Wyatt Davis somehow gets to camp and he's in the best shape of his life, and it's a change. Ooh, that was rough. Unless he's a completely changed guard, I don't think that's gonna be the case. I think Vikings fans can have that optimism inside, but I don't think that's extremely realistic to expect. So, the article that I wrote, and I can talk about this as you're looking a little bit more. I made a pitch for Daxton Hill, the safety out of Michigan, and he's just extremely versatile safety who can play nickel. He can play as a single high safety as well, and he's extremely, extremely physical, good at tackling. A player that just seems like he would fit in what Ed Donatel is going to want to run, and it's also a team need. I think you can make the argument anywhere in the secondary they need safety depth, and if he can come and play that nickel spot, I think this would be a good spot to take him. I think he's one of the best safeties in this class outside of Kyle Hamilton. But at the end of the day, there are other needs, so I can be persuaded into other decisions as well.
Yeah, I know.
I think
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think we'd be having a different conversation. Hadn't Zadarius Smith signed yesterday, we'd probably be going after Carl Aftis a little bit harder because I know we
Yeah.
talked about that last week, and I'd still be okay with that. But I think with the Zadarius Smith signing, that kind of pushes that need down the road a couple years at least.
I agree
So
with you. Well, and it's if we sign Zadarius Smith to a 1-year deal, then all of a sudden we have Smith and Hunter gone after next season. And then it's like, okay, yeah, let's take Kyle Laftis because I do like him a lot. But with Zadarius Smith coming in, I really don't have high hopes that the Vikings are going to snag him. What I do have, and I would like to bring up, is we have 2 offensive line spots that are still needs, I would argue. We still need a center, we still need a guard. And I know he's kind of small, but like Linderbaum is sitting there. And I think you have to at least think about, taking Tyler Linderbaum to step in and play guard for you. Maybe you even, I think he has some center experience in his career. So maybe you have him, bounce around, on that interior offensive line. But I know Linderbaum's a name that a lot of Vikings fans are hesitant to fall in love with because we took a similar player to Linderbaum in Garrett Bradbury a couple years ago, and he has not panned out, so much so that here we are just 2 or 3 years later talking about drafting Tyler Linderbaum and saying, well, maybe we shouldn't because the last guy didn't work out. So I'm kind of up in the air on this one. I know if we were just going off of like what PFF thinks, because I enjoy PFF's content. I think they do a pretty good job over there. They would slaughter us for talking about taking Daxton Hill in the first round because they just don't think safeties are that important. But I agree with you. I like Daxton Hill as a player. And
it's not even just the safety though. Like the fact that he can come and bump down and play nickel as well. Like the versatility is there. And right now he's scroll up. There's no one better in the secondary either left. I think, yeah, guys like McDuffie's already gone. Booth is already gone.
McDuffie went even pretty high.
The kid from Florida went already too. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be corners, and this is just where there's like it kind of differentiates because the other cornerback from Washington in another mock simulator that I was using was sliding down towards. They had him ranked in like the 70s, which is absolutely crazy. His name's Kyler Gordon. Don't think he's going to be there for us in the second round of this mock draft, but I think I'm with you. I wouldn't hesitate, or not hesitate. I wouldn't be opposed to at least considering Drake London here, getting a big-bodied red zone threat for Kirk Cousins. I think a lot of Vikings fans don't probably want to hear that, but quite frankly, to be honest with you, with the wide receiver classes that have been coming out year over year over year, I will probably never be opposed to drafting a wide receiver, especially when you're supposed to be getting a more high-powered offense with Kevin O'Connell. It makes sense. I don't think it makes a ton of sense here. I think Drake London is one of the top wide receivers in this entire class. Consensus rankings across the board, I think he's more often than not in the top 3. But having said that, there is a ton of depth at the position. I think you can scoop one up later on. So if you're okay with it, if we're gonna go off my article, you could almost, that's the thing too. I mean, we could almost explore. And when I say this, explore another trade back. I don't know how realistic it would be. The Vikings jumping back a couple picks here, a couple picks there, and then just loading up on day 2 and day 3 picks. But you could probably try to slide back a little bit further. But if it's a guy that the Vikings front office actually liked as much as myself, I think I'd pull the trigger here at 20. You
Well,
already recouped a second rounder, and I like that. But if they were wanting to see, I mean, if they got a call from, say, Arizona or Dallas or Buffalo here and said, hey, we'll give you an extra third, I'd be willing to at least listen to that if I'm the Vikings. I don't know if that's realistic for them to only jump a few spots in the 20s, but
so
Willis is still there. So, I mean, a team like, I don't know who would be a great fit left on the board for Malik Willis now. Maybe Tampa Bay,
Detroit has
possibly with Tom Brady.
Detroit's got the 32 pick. They might be interested, but I'm gonna be honest. So
That's true.
I don't like trading back like twice in the first round
Yeah,
in mock drafts.
I feel
But
that.
I do what I do like is the pick of Daxton Hill. I think that this all just comes down to, like you really stressed it, the versatility that he brings to the defense. Because he's not just a safety that we can now play. Because oh, what's his name? Help me out with the name of the young kid that played a few times in place of Xavier Woods last year.
Cam Bynum.
Thank you. I knew his name was Cam, and I just couldn't think of his last name. Cam Bynum, who is arguably a pretty solid player. The Bengals want us to trade up with him, and I'm just gonna go ahead and decline that.
Yeah.
Cam Bynum is a pretty good player, but what you can see the Vikings do is like you said, with the versatility. Oh my goodness, I already forgot his name. With the versatility of Hill, all of a sudden they can play 3 safeties and they can put Hill down on a nickel guy. And with his physicality, he's going to be able to he's going to be a guy that you can have in there on almost every play. Which I think is important whenever you're taking a defensive back. But here we go. We're flying down. Desmond Ridder is there, and we talked after the show last week about Desmond Ridder and how he's a guy that I want to love, but I just can't bring myself to because I just personally don't see it with him. But Jack, I'm gonna kick us off here. I really want Tariq Woolen, and I don't know that anyone that is ahead of him in terms of like the draft here makes me want to like try and trade back from and take that risk of maybe like the next team that has to pick takes him because he's the highest cornerback on the board right now. We can kind of look at the names here. There's those 3 quarterbacks here and then a couple running backs. Is there anybody here that you see that makes you like that kind of jumps out at you as like a hey, that's like almost a can't miss guy? Oh, what are you thinking for this pick?
I don't think there's necessarily a can't miss guy. If the Vikings were looking at going quarterback here, I would definitely 100% take Corral over Desmond Ridder
Yeah.
personally. If that were the case, I don't think with the Cousins extension that's necessarily in their cards this year. I'm on board with Woolen here. He's a huge corner to get into that, and he has the speed too. I know there's some injury concern just because he is 6'4" and he's playing one of the fastest positions in the sport. But I think we have another guy that you and I both agree on that might fall into our laps here. Ooh, Roger McCreary was.
Oh,
We
wait.
just got auto picked.
Well, we just took
That,
DeMalvin Leal. Well,
why did that happen? That's weird.
I don't know why that happened. Maybe I like misclicked or something. I don't know. I'll check the tape here in a second. I'm assuming you were talking about George Pickens, right?
I was talking about Pickens. Yes.
So we won't be able to post this on social media, but George Pickens, and I'll pull up his player profile here. Me and you both really like him. I know he's had some like injury issues in the past, but I think especially if the Vikings were able to get another second round pick, I would love to see the Vikings grab him, in the late second round, just because of the talent that he brings. And I know KJ Osborne had a good second year. I just think George Pickens is the type of guy that steps in and is immediately wide receiver 3. And in a couple of years, when Adam Thielen, who by the way had to pay to go to his own regional combine, When he's gone, I think Jefferson Pickens could be an elite wide receiver duo, and then we can be, kind of looking for the next wide receiver 3 to step in. So I think we would have agreed. I don't think either of us were gonna bang the table for Matt Corral, or Brees Hall. I think George Pickens would have been the pick there. Unfortunately, we got a little unfortunate with technology, but such is life. I'll let
And
you.
it's interesting too with the kind of this slot here is where some of these simulators have like just crazily different viewpoints on this. I mean, there's another mock that I was doing where I have guys like Kyler Gordon. He's falling. Where did Kyler Gordon? I think he might have went at the end of the first or early second. But there's other guys that have the possibility of sliding. And yeah, right there, 31 to Cincinnati. But he has a ton of talent. There's a lot of talent that you can get on day 2 at the cornerback position. I still think we'd probably with Woolen. I like Woolen. He has the speed. I would enjoy seeing him in purple, but I agree. I think at that next pick, I probably would have went wide receiver there. Or I'm not opposed to taking an interior offensive lineman there, or the possibility of even taking 2 corners in the second round either.
Yeah, I stressed it on last week's show. I think that the Vikings need to. It's not necessarily, and this was last week, of course, so take it with a grain of salt. It's not necessarily take a defensive back at 12 no matter what, as much as it is take 2 defensive backs in the top 100 no matter what, because it's we need to get bodies in that room that have the potential to be really, really good. Jack, my headphones just made a sound. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right. I was just making sure that everything was still on the up and up, because we've had some bad luck with everything tonight. Also, just because I have to put this out here, I like Sam Howell more than I like Matt Corral, and also I feel like we've kind of gotten the bad side, like the hot side of the pillow with this mock draft, because a quarterback didn't go until 32. And I would put money on it that there are going to be 3 first-round quarterbacks this year. And I think Malik Willis is going top 10. I think Kenny Pickett is going top 20. And I think Matt Corral or Desmond Ridder are going to go in the first round as well. Kind of a Teddy Bridgewater situation where some team is going to trade back in to get one of those guys and then kind of move out. So that's 3 players that were off the board whenever it came time for us to draft in the second round. And I mean, who knows, if like Sky Moe is a guy who I really like, who if he falls a little bit further, maybe we think about making a call to move up to get him. I doubt it is with Pickens being there, but I wanted to shout out Sky Moe. He's one of those guys that, he's just really fun to watch. He's an incredible talent, and it's insane. Also David Ojabo, feel really bad for him. That was awful having to watch that video. It was really sad, but I'll go ahead and resume the draft. We'll keep moving along. Do you want to trade up and give away our third and fourth and in the draft now?
Probably not.
Yeah, no.
I mean, we could go and get the wide receiver there, but in theory, that's who that pick 52 was. In our hearts, we'll always know.
And the key thing is that the fans know. And we just won't. If we do post this mock draft online, then we'll make sure to scribble out whoever we ended up taking and writing in George Pickens. But looking at this is just insane. To me, the way that this draft is just not valuing the quarterback position. Matt Corral just went. If the Texans get Matt Corral at the beginning of round 3, they walk away with a very big smile on their face. They're like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool, like we did it," because like he's got. I think all the quarterbacks in this class have a lot of potential. It's just a matter of are they going to do it. Okay, I'm going to decline these trades. All right, so here we are. Sitting here, this is what the board is looking like. I know Dylan Parham. He's a name that I like. I also really like Isaiah Likely. And you're going to roll your eyes, and I can't see your face right now, but I bet you. I don't think it's likely that the Vikings take him, but I would really like that. And then there's my draft love, Darian Beavers, who is up there. But with the way free agency is broke, I don't think Darian Beavers is going to find his way into a Minnesota Vikings uniform. The question is, Jack, where are you looking anywhere in here, or do you need me to keep scrolling for you to start getting
Well,
interested?
so there, I wouldn't be opposed. I don't even know how to say his name properly, but Salier,
Oh yeah.
57 right there. I think he's a guard from Georgia. He
Hmm.
may have played some tackle as well. I don't click on his player profile. Uh, Starting NFL guard. Look at that. That's his ideal role. Guess what the Vikings need? Starting level or starting caliber NFL guards. I think I'd be between those two, and it just depends on. Excuse my dog as he's shaking his head right next to me, but I think you have to address that position at some point, whether that's here or if you want to wait a little bit longer. Another name that's going to be farther down this list that I really like is Cam Taylor-Britt, the cornerback out of Nebraska. Another kind of versatile type player, physical. Just by this point, if you've listened to the show long enough, you know that I'm not probably going to talk about a cornerback unless they bring some sort of physicality to the football field. So. But it seems like that would be a little bit of a reach here, and I think we can get some other corners like a Kobe Bryant, the guy that you like out of Cincinnati,
Yeah.
later on in this draft. So I'd be more than okay with either of the two guards that are available, and I think I'd lean the kid from Georgia. I don't know as much about the kid from Memphis, so if you have a stronger feeling for him, that's certainly
I
fine.
don't.
But
I like him, but he's one of those guys. So he's a smaller guard, but he reminds me a lot of Brian O'Neill in that he was like, oh, this guy used to be a tight end and he changed over to offensive lineman, and look at how agile he is for such a big guy. But he's also a little undersized, and honestly, I'm not. I if we're picking a lineman that isn't like a top 20 pick, that's like freakishly fast and strong. I don't. I just want to draft the biggest, strongest, fattest guy available. In all
someone
honesty,
that can't get pushed in the Kirk's
yes,
lap every single
I'm
play,
tired of
ideally.
watching Coke get taken down by his own lineman because I don't know how he isn't incredibly frustrated. Probably because we pay him a lot of money, but also I'm not positive, so I could be wrong. I think it's pronounced like it. I think it sounds like Sawyer, like
Oh,
Sawel, but it's like Saul Yo instead, which is a strange way of pronouncing it.
Sawyer.
But I think I've seen that name before, and I'm pretty sure
Okay.
that's how it was pronounced. But I'm a okay with going with Jamali Sawyer out of Georgia. The Vikings get their guard. Who knows? This comes if we sign JC Treto, then that just becomes that's the icing on the cake for this draft, I think, and for this offseason really is we get him, we let him and Wyatt Davis just kind of duke it out in the offseason and in spring training. I'm in baseball mode, in training camp and everything, and then we kind of see where we end up going. But looking at people that are falling, I'm trying to it starts getting more difficult to get excited about a lot of names. Like I feel like it's not that the options get more limited as we go down. It's just my guys start going, and I'm like, oh no. Dalvin Cook's brother is getting close to going. Carlson Strong is still available. I don't know. I would be interested to look at the Saints draft to see if they did get a quarterback because I honestly haven't been paying a ton of attention. Um, Oh man, we gotta pick soon, so that way I can hopefully make my case for Wandale Robinson. Just Jack, who are some of the guys just while we fill time and while we wait for us to get another pick? Who are some of the guys that you really really like in this draft class? Like that'll kind of they went Wandale Robinson. I'm very sad. But who are some of the names that stand out as like these early day 3, late day 2 prospects that you like?
Any cornerback that can play football. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have as many names. I've been diving in a lot more into the earlier stuff, and it's kind of hard to see the screen too. You want to scroll down just a little bit. I want to see Alec Pierce is one, and I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Oh
Killed it
yeah.
at the combine, wide receiver. God, there's so many guys that are draft eligible from Cincinnati. I feel like that's probably crazy for you seeing that, following them your whole life, and now how I don't. There's got to be. I don't know. I don't want to guess a number, but there's a good handful of players
I
from
would say there's at
Cincinnati.
least I would if I was guessing a number. There's I know I can think at least four, right? Because there's there's Sauce, there's the other corner, there's the wide receiver, and then there's Darian Beavers. And I think there might be. I know like one the running back is right there too, Jerome Feld. So
And
there's
Desmond. That's without Desmond Ritter
that
too.
that's without Desmond. So there's six. Oh, there's five or six. And that's whatever. Oh, no, Jack, he's there if you want him. But
I would be more than okay with going Kobe Bryant here, if I'm being honest. I think, I mean, what we've taken one corner and a safety so far. We would have not taken that defensive lineman. That would have been Pickens instead. But then we got a guy that I think can come in and at the very least, compete with Wyatt Davis on the interior. I don't even know if Wyatt Davis, Oli Udo, I don't know who the starter is going to be going into the season, but he can compete with that group. And it doesn't matter. I think you have to come out of this draft with at least two cornerbacks, and I think Kobe Bryant is one of the best ones on the board still. So I'd be more than okay closing this out with him.
I absolutely agree with you. And I do think Kobe Bryant's going to be the pick. But let me just remind everyone that Bailey Zappi is going to be a competent backup out of this draft class. And I'm sad that even if we did a 7-round mock, I doubt I would have banged the table super duper hard for him just because it wouldn't be right. But yeah, I'm looking at the draft board here, and we're not taking special teams or running backs. We'll set there.
I think running back could be a sneaky position for the Vikings. I don't think it's here in round 4.
Yeah, it has to be like such a late pick because like you have Cook, you have Madison, and then you have Wong Wu, who we said his name wrong all of last season. I mean, until he had that kick return touchdown, and I heard him say Wong Wu, and then they were like, "Yeah, it's pronounced Wong Wu," and I was like, I thought it was like Nawong, like or whatever. But I do think that Kobe Bryant would be a good pick here. There are a couple cornerbacks ahead of him in Jalen Watson, and a Caleb Evans, but I mean he hits close to home quite literally, and also if you're curious. He is named after Kobe Bryant, like the Kobe Bryant. His mom loved Kobe Bryant and named him that. And that should make some viewers in the audience feel incredibly old that a basketball player that was in his prime for your lifetime has kids playing in the NFL that are named after him. That's kind of crazy to me. But I'll go ahead and pull the trigger there, and that's going to be the end of this mock draft. Again, DeMalvin Leal, nothing against you. I'm sure you're a great man and a great football player. Unfortunately, your spot should have went to George Pickens, and we will, in the cinematic universe. I don't know why I'm so all over that tonight, but that is George Pickens instead. I think that's a pretty good first.
Yeah, with Pickens there, I really like that. I think it overloads the secondary a little bit. I think looking at this, I think it's still probably ideally you go out and sign a cheaper veteran cornerback. Maybe it is bringing back Patrick Peterson on a 1 or 2 year deal. I think that'd be big for a group that's already as youthful as it is. So having someone that they know was a true lockdown corner in his prime, I think that would do wonders for not only the secondary but the defense as a whole. So I'm a fan of this. I think Daxon Hill is slowly becoming my guy in this draft class, which is fun to have, and I'm sure it also is going to change 150 times between the next month when we do our final mock draft the week of the NFL draft, which it's crazy to even say that the draft is literally like a month away. I think it's like a month and 5 days, but overall, you get a legitimate wide receiver that I think can step in, and if he's healthy, is going to be an upgrade over someone like KJ Osborne. And kind of what you were saying during that pick, too, looking at more perspective than just 2022 and 2023, looking beyond the years of Adam Thielen and knowing, hey, maybe this is a stud that can be placed alongside Justin Jefferson and work well with KJ Osborne, too. So overall, I really like this draft. I think we did a few going in the draft last year, and we changed up a little bit every single time. So make sure you're following along and watching these because
Yeah,
they will
absolutely.
drastically change over the next month and
If even
change.
if we so like if we trade down next time, I'm sure we will trade down with the Saints instead of Pittsburgh just to change things up. And I mean, again, like I said, I think this was a not a, it was I like the mock. I like the way the board fell to us, but things could possibly be. I mean, this draft might look different. Tariq Woolen might not be there if Sauce Gardner doesn't go because the Commandos took Malik Willis, and like those just things like that. Well, quarterbacks when you don't need one, it makes drafting a lot more fun than okay, we know the first pick is a quarterback. Everything else is it's going to be what it is. We really need to get the quarterback right. The Vikings are fortunate that they kept Cousins, and I'm still not thrilled about it because I think we could be even better without Cousins. I think there could be some addition by subtraction if we found the right guy. But there's also a chance we draft another Christian Pondo. So whatever, let's all Cousins out there. But I think one of the most important picks here is Jamari Sawyer, who's going to step in and compete with Wyatt Davis because Cousins can't throw the ball from the ground. And I know Zadarius Smith now plays with Cousins instead of against, but we're still going to be, going up against some pretty good pass rushes next year, and it's going to be important that our defensive line holds up against them. So, yeah, man, I'm a big fan of this draft. I like Daxton Hill. I think that's a. I wouldn't be mad if the Vikings traded down and ended up taking like a safety or something. I think that would be perfectly acceptable in my eyes. But now that we're done with that, let me get out of main screen mode. Let me go change. I have to do a couple things here. I have to stop streaming in Discord. I have to go in here and I have to go back to load the box. And I did all of that. Now I will address the chat really quick because I did have two comments from Jeff Hawthorne. He said we might trade up. I agree. I wouldn't be angry depending on what we gave up. I'd be okay with a trade up. It wouldn't make me super mad if it was for the right guy. Like if we were going up to get Sauce Gardner and we just moved up 2 picks and we gave up like a 5th round pick, cool, pull the trigger, whatever. But it all depends on the price. And then Joshua Dalton Hawthorne, who is my brother, who is currently watching this from a hospital where his girlfriend is in labor. He says he is willing to trade my soon-to-be daughter for Sauce Gardner. And Josh, I love the enthusiasm, but I don't think our mother would be happy if you did that. Our father might be. But yeah, I called up the chat. I did that. We did the mock draft. Jack, what else? Do you have anything else, or do you think we can let the people go and tell them tune in next week to watch us trade with the New Orleans Saints and sell our souls to the devil?
Yeah, I want to say one thing on trading up. If they can bump up a couple spots and only remember, I was fine when the trade happened, and now that looking back, and now that we're doing mock after mock after mock, it's like God, it would be nice to have that 4th round pick back for Chris Herndon because he did not pan out as a tight end 2 or whatever the heck he was supposed to be. But he'd caught 1 touchdown. I think he caught like 3 or 4 passes on the season, something like that. But trading up, I'm fine with it as long as it doesn't mean dipping into those day 2 picks because, quite frankly, the Vikings need those picks. They need depth and they need starters, so it's going to be tough to do that. But if it is for a guy like Sauce Gardner and he starts to fall, or Thibodeau, or even, I mean, Kyle Hamilton is the most versatile player. I talk about Daxton Hill being a versatile safety. Kyle Hamilton is that on steroids.
Yeah.
The guy is an absolute freak, and I've started to see him like slowly creep down towards 10. It's like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think this simulator is broken, but if that happens, I'm smashing the trade button and figuring out a way to get another Notre Dame safety alongside Harrison Smith.
I don't know if we said this on air or if this was in our off air talks, but we did a mock draft, or maybe you sent me it was the Tua draft, and I remember getting a picture from you where like we were sitting at 27 and you like sent, and Tua was sitting there and you were like, I think I have to like, and that's the thing with automatic mock drafts. And that's why some people hate automatic mock drafts. They will go through and they will do all 32 teams and they will decide what they need, because they feel like that is better than the AI doing it. because when you let AI do its thing, sometimes, it makes bad decisions and it drafts Sauce Gardner instead of Malik Willis. Well, I guess, you know what? That's actually viable because the Commandos just traded for Carson Wentz. So maybe they're not there. But the Seahawks, really, I'm still a little
Seahawks,
about it.
Falcons, Panthers, and Lions. I think the Lions are sitting in a really good spot because they have that 32nd
Yeah.
overall
And
pick.
they
So
still got Malik
if there
Willis in this mock
if there
draft.
is a slide on quarterbacks like we saw in this draft, they can go out and get best player available, which is probably, they drafted Sewell last year. Go out and get, if it's Thibodeau or if it's Hutchinson, it's 1A, 1B in my opinion. You take either one of those two. You have a future superstar pass rusher now. You have your left tackle. Draft a quarterback, let him sit behind Goff. If you're not good in 2022, guess what? The quarterback class is much better, and I wouldn't be shocked to see Detroit in the top 10 again next year either.
Yeah, no, I also wouldn't be shocked to see Detroit shockingly have a 8-win season this year. I wouldn't. I'm a fan of Dan Campbell and kind of what he's doing, and I think that whoever they get with the number, they have the 2, right? They have 2.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think whoever they get with the number 2 pick is gonna be insane. I don't think there's any chance it's not Chase. I keep wanting to call him Chase Winovich, and I know that's not who he is. God, what's his name?
Hutchinson?
Yes, thank you so much, Aiden Hutchinson. Just the Michigan thing, but yeah, I think that's all we have tonight. I have my little ball that I play with whenever we do this show now to keep my hands busy. Yeah, I think I really do think that's it. Really good job by Kwesi and the front office. I'll get my own screen to go out and get Zadarius Smith. I cannot applaud them enough for that. Good job, Rob Bozinski, making the money just move. The money dances. It's insane. Hopefully they can do it again. If they sign JC Treadle, I will just immediately say this has been the best offseason of my entire life. Hands down, without question. But Jack, I'll let you give me the weekly hype speech, and then and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot. I agree with you. I think that's an A-plus signing. I think it's a step in the right direction for a defense that desperately needed talent across the board. The defensive line and the front 7 are finally kind of starting to come together. And as we alluded to in this mock draft, I think cornerback is going to be kind of the main talking point throughout the next month, because that is, quite frankly, the Vikings' biggest need. I think you can make a case for some of these other players. I think Zion Johnson is another interesting name to keep an eye on, the guard out of Boston College. If the Vikings have any interest in going there, maybe it is Linderbaum or it is him, and they do trade back. I don't want either of those players at 12, but I can see where the Vikings would have interest in trading back, beefing up the offensive line, and then just the rest of the draft hitting on cornerbacks and players in the secondary. There's other good versatile safeties. Jalen Petre is another one, smaller kid out of Baylor. Love his game. We had Thor Nystrom on a podcast on Friday, and he was talking about comparing him to the Honey Badger. If you can get a Honey Badger type player in this defense, just talking about the versatility, I mean, he is Mr. Versatile. Super fun watching him for the Chiefs the last couple seasons. But the Vikings are heading in the correct direction at the very least. I don't think we were necessarily fully bought in after the Kirk Cousins extension. I think you and I were a little bit on different sides of the spectrum, but at the end of the day, we were both more so on that side where it's like, you know what? The rebuild is coming. You might as well do it now. They're finding ways to kind of avoid the rebuild. They're going around that. Kwesi was talking about that in his press conference earlier today. But at the end of the day, the Vikings, I feel like I just keep repeating myself, but the Vikings are headed in the right direction. Zadarius Smith is a very fun addition, and most importantly, Skol as always.
And let's fucking go.